Hey guys, I'm doing the next installment in my series of tests on whether or not there are any negative side effects from using aluminum oxide or silicon carbide abrasives on high hardness, high vanadium content steels. Today's test will be using a Spyderco medium finish on this Spyderco Mule Team in Maxamet at about 68 Rockwell with about a 15-degree per side freehand edge bevel. You can see that the permanent marker remains on the blade from the previous test I did using the DMT extra fine. It's because I left it there because I wanted to have a good idea of what portion of the apex I used last time, because I'm going to try and use the same portion this time. I made sure to totally grind out all the microchips that were found at the end of the last test on the DMT extra fine. I used a Sigma Power Select 2 240X to do the initial grinding to get out those microchips. I then used the Sigma Power Select 2 1000, a Sigma Power Select 2 3000, and now I'm going to apply the finish of a Spyderco Fine before starting the test on some more of these bamboo chopsticks, which I discovered in the DMT extra fine test are in fact quite devastating on an apex. They managed in only a couple of minutes to produce some pretty serious microchipping along the entire test section on the apex that had been finished on the DMT extra fine. So it'll be interesting to see how long it takes for the apex finished on the Spyderco medium to accumulate similar damage to the apex that was finished on the DMT extra fine. To begin with, I'm going to start by sharpening this knife, or I should say raising the level of polish on the apex to that of the Spyderco medium, but I'm probably going to cut most of that out and just skip straight ahead to after the deburring step so that we can get right onto the test. So, as you can see, along all portions of the apex that are going to be used for this test, the edge will push cut newsprint across the grain at 90 degrees off of the Spyderco medium. Now I'm just going to grab the marker I used for this last time, and I'm going to mark off the same portion of the edge. Okay, so that's marked off now, and we'll start like last time with cutting off the ends using angled strokes. Okay, so we'll do an initial test now. So far, damage appears to be minimal, if any. And hopefully getting the orientation of these push cut tests to the camera enough that you can see whether or not the blue lines move forward or backwards relative to the paper while the push cut's being initiated. So that should help you to visualize whether or not there is any sort of draw going on, which I don't think I make much of a draw when initiating push cuts. I'm fairly certain, but that will help you see for yourself. So now we'll move on to deliberately twisting out of cuts. So sorry, my hand's actually sliding a bit, so I'll try and... Okay, so I've twisted out of several cuts. Okay, still appears to be working reasonably well. Maybe we'll do some more cuts on the end. Okay. Still seems fine to me. Now, for the record, the way I'm deliberately twisting up out of these cuts, don't do this unless you're deliberately doing it because you're testing apex strength, because this is not good for apexes. As a general rule, you should avoid trying to twist out of cuts. Okay. I think we're starting to see that there's got to be some damage. Not a huge amount, actually. But right at the beginning, there's clearly, at the beginning of that section, I think there's some microchipping. It's hesitating to initiate push cuts, but the rest of it actually is holding up pretty good. Okay, let's see if we can spread out the damage a bit more. Well, those are some extremely hard cuts. Actually straining my arm to do that, but nonetheless. Let's see here, I think. No, it's still doing pretty good, actually. It's actually a bit unexpected. As far as I can tell, this appears to be doing better than the apex off of the DMT extra fine in the same test. That's weird. I was not expecting anything like that. Let's keep going. All right. Yeah, this is clearly now performing noticeably better. That is really strange. We are, I think, at this point, well beyond the point at which we have to stop the DMT extra fine test. I'm not sure I quite understand why that's the case. It could just be random. Worst case scenario, I may have to retest the DMT extra fine, because that appears now to potentially be an outlier result. But I think it's inarguable at this point that this thing is holding up pretty damn well to butchering chopsticks. Oh, this is hard work, for the record. Let's do some more hard cuts on the end through the fibers. I think there's clearly at least some microchipping here at this point, but it's not nearly as severe as it was on the DMT extra fine the first time I did that test. I suspect I may end up having to do the DMT extra fine again, which is kind of annoying because I don't exactly enjoy sharpening out microchips, but whatever. Alright, let's do a bit more. Let's see if I can maybe make some more severe C cuts into this. I'm gonna have to grab another chopstick at this rate because I don't have enough of a handhold left on this. that caught. But overall, I think aside from the section right in front of the starting line for this section, I think this portion over here is definitely clearly got some microchipping going on, because it's catching a fairly high percentage of the time when trying to do push cuts. But in front of that, so far, it appears that it's still fine. Has no problem initiating push cuts. Where the hell did the rest of the chopsticks go? I'm gonna need another one. Okay. Alright, let's see if that managed to degrade the push cutting sharpness. Nope, still just the area immediately in front of the start of the test portion. You know what I'm going to do here, just to make this easier for myself, because I think I'm accidentally doing some of those tests past the front line there, is I'm going to do this. Just to help me keep the testing to the right portion of the edge. I'm going to tape that way. I don't know if this is going to work, but it'll work, but I can't do it that way. I got to do it a slightly different way if I'm going to tape this, because I can't have the tape angled backwards because it's getting in the way. So what I'm going to do instead is like this. There. That way it's not getting in the way higher up on the blade when I'm doing push cuts. So now I should okay. Okay. The push cutting ability there appears undiminished. So let's try a bit more. So there you have it. 3 chopsticks destroyed in a fairly aggressive manner, and if anything, the remaining push cutting sharpness is better than it was off of the DMT extra fine. So I don't think this test produced results fundamentally any different than the previous tests using pine. The Spyderco medium finish, which is an aluminum oxide stone, actually it's a solid sintered alumina stone, so to whatever extent aluminum oxide is unable to grind vanadium, the solid sintered alumina benchstone should be even more guilty of it and should produce even worse side effects. And it had no problem producing an apex on this knife that stood up without any difficulty to butchering 3 bamboo chopsticks. I forgot to add that I should show some of the microscope images showing how the apex appeared to be in terms of whether or not it had any microchips after the test. So you can see the images I've cut into the video here show that there was some level of microchipping throughout the test area of the Maxamet Mule, but that the microchipping that was present was far less severe than was present at the conclusion of the first DMT extra fine test. So that does show that this test on bamboo is a much more strenuous test of apex strength than pine is, particularly the way I was doing the pine cuts, but that even so, the outcome does not appear to have been fundamentally altered.